Well, welcome everyone. We don't have a lot of folks on yet. People are still kind of coming in. I know there are a lot of actually big events this weekend, so we may be catching people during the week on the replay. But I'm looking forward to the show and everybody here. I will give them a couple more seconds here. We're kind of ramping up. For those that are already on, thank you for showing up and catching our episode tonight. We apologize. We were originally scheduled to do a fencing episode tonight, kind of the how fencing evolved through the SCA. We're kind of pushing that off as there's a couple of people that wanted to be part of that couldn't do tonight. So even better, I got two wonderful people I've been talking to for a while now, and I'm really looking forward to talking about the really fun stuff that they've been doing around training. We've been talking training almost for 3 years now. Really, we have Duke Timothy, who's been doing some amazing stuff back at his home. He's been doing amazing stuff for years that I've known him. But right now, I've really enjoyed his small series stuff. And then we have Sir Bari, who is also, he's not only capturing Timothy's stuff, but he's also capturing a lot of the videos, the short videos out there. And he's going to talk and explain kind of the new ideas around education and teaching that are coming kind of more forward these days. And we can see that with things like TikTok and to tell you the truth, even many of the training videos, weightlifting and boxing videos I see now some of them are mostly under 3 minutes. And they'll show one thing. And we'll talk about why that's happening. The good part is Sir Barrios also agreed to be one of our new coaches and help us with our melee and things like that. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that he has coming up and his site and his YouTube site for the videos, and also his melee site that he posts up, which I love following personally. So let's start this way. Your Grace, Tim, is what made you start these the short videos? And I'm gonna highlight you just so everybody can see you better.
My kids. I've got 6 kids, and the eldest 2 fought for several years, more to humor me than anything else. That taking the field with them has been some of my greatest pleasures on the field. But like a bunch of us in my age bracket, how do we get young people interested in the SCA? And my kids put it perfectly. It's like nobody wants to play with their dad's friends, and they mean that age bracket more so than me and my friends. And I mean, it made a lot of sense, and we're still trying to move things younger, but my middle 2 children, my 2 youngest daughters, they're like, Dad, so social media, yes, it's the way to go, but TikTok. Nobody does Facebook anymore. Nobody does YouTube anymore. It's all TikTok. You need to start a TikTok channel, Dad. And so, I've started the TikTok channel, and it's getting. I only started a month or so back, but the little 3 minute or less clips seem to have filled a need. People really seem to be digging on those short clips, and I was hoping I could get it to 1,000 people on my TikTok channel so I could live stream Adult Swim next week. But I'm only a little over 850, and I need 1,000 to live stream on that platform. So it looks like I won't be able to live stream it on Facebook. But that's what pushed me over the edge into doing this, was my 21 and 22-year-old telling me I need a TikTok channel because that's the way I'm going to reach the youth.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree. I've heard that a lot, and it's kind of funny because I relate it even back to our fight practices and having that interaction in a place that's more comfortable for younger people and people of like you know, like gender, like, you know, personalities and things like that. Help them learn, help them, you know, stay and have fun in the group. And I think we're just extending that into the social media place. I mean, it's taken us a long time. If we look, we have a ton of stuff now on social media, but really, for most part, most of our social media stuff started with COVID. I mean, you know, all of this stuff, you think about where we were prior COVID. I've been on social media since, like, if you want to call websites social media, since like 2003. And I ran a site called legiodraconis.com. We had some weird little messengers and things like that on it that could do stuff. And everybody had their names and devices, and we had forums. And so, you know, there was no streaming video back then or anything, but there's a lot of good talk that happened. But, you know, the progression from there has been amazing. And then as soon as we hit COVID with video, it just went to a place that I was very shocked. But I think the big part about that was, I think people are trying to help each other get through COVID, try to help each other not be at home alone, or not have things that they used to love, have to drop the things they used to love. So I know there are so many little videos and little fun dancing videos and singing videos and everything that came out during COVID that I look back and I really appreciate the effort that people put forward to try to engage people in what was a very bad time. And the content that came out of it was amazing. I mean, we saw, you know, 50 some ducal interviews that almost every one I saw was all about other people. You know, it was all about, we want to be able to help. And it was really nice to see. We got to learn more about people. And I think that's what's happening now with training. And I think that's what you guys are both doing, is that you're in that place where now we're extending that training. And I think the key here is the small size that you're giving. And I think me and Bari had to talk about this. You want to talk about what we had talked about small video?
Yeah. Actually, I want to go take a step back just a bit, because we talked about the pandemic and how much that really impacted this. But I want to go a little bit before this. So for whoever's listening out there, Duke Brannos and I actually hadn't met until Penzic in person. We chatted online, and that's one of the things that's great about the social media, is you sort of meet people online. But before that, like, I knew who he was, and I'm looking right now. This will let you know how far back this goes. I just searched on YouTube Duke Brannos spear class, and what came up was this is how old it is: an Earl Brannos spear class, and then just a Brannos spear class. So that's how old these are. The Brannos spear class is 12 years ago. Brannos isn't going to give himself too much credit for this, but I have to give him a lot of credit. Is that I think you were kind of well ahead of the game on using the internet. Now, granted, this wasn't your channel. These other people were taking videos and uploading them, but it was still, you know, at least you were out there teaching these classes. So definitely kudos to you. You've always been sort of inspiration for my own channel to be able to do this stuff. But to your question, so what we talked about, so I put together this sort of spear. I guess I started off with like a spear page. That was sort of my focus for quite a while. And I just wanted to get all these ideas out there. Kind of what Duke Timothy's doing right now with his page. Just like all these ideas you have in your head, just get them all out on the internet. As you get better at refining them, you can sort of drop old videos and replace them with new stuff. But I had this, I'll tell you what happened. I had this moment a couple years ago where I posted this video that was, most of my videos are about 10 minutes. Oh, and by the way, for anyone that knows me, I'm a very chatty, wordy person. So I'm aware of that. But one of my videos, I think most of them were like 10 minutes. I got this 4-minute video out, and one of my friends was like, "That was awesome. It was straight and to the point. You got the ideas out there." And I was like, "Is this your way of saying my other stuff is too long?" And too like, sort of. And we talked more and more. And honestly, the channel the concept I came up with these sort of TikTok style videos, the shorter concept, I'll be honest, a part of it was to try to like extend my brand and try to get me knighted. But Fortunately, that happened before I actually got the videos out there. But I still, have a passion for it. But yeah, a friend of mine had recommended, I know Timothy knows him, Sir Rundor out of Atlantia. And he was like, hey, what about these TikTok videos? I was like, that's way too short. But yeah, then figured out how to start getting them down to just a couple of minutes. And it seems to, and side into this, Timothy and I guess kind of at the same time, we're sort of thinking the same things. And then I happened to be mentioning to my boss about this. So again, for whoever's listening, I do video editing and education and stuff at work. And we had a new product rollout, and my boss is like, yeah, that whole TikTok video thing you're talking about is like, I want you to do that here. It's just a good, efficient way to digest information nowadays. I think we get too conversational. Like we think like we have, if a lot of people are going to drive an hour to come to your talk, you kind of want to make them feel warm and welcome, and you have everybody get in a circle around and you introduce each other and you give some sort of long introduction about how amazing, the great sword used to be, or when they invented the Dane axe, or, this person I know who actually won crown with a buckler, and you go into that. But for the videos, I think people just want to see it, get the information. They can always rewind it and watch it again. They can freeze frame it. And then they can always ask questions in the comment section. And I will say, I got a couple of videos where in the comment section, they said, oh, you didn't cover X, Y, and Z. And I was like, well, I can answer that right now if you want, or I can make another video. So that's what I do.
All right, Tim.
What you're saying really ties into what I actually have in mind with my Facebook channel. Because right now I'm just duplicating the same videos on the Duke Tim page and on TikTok. But what I'm planning, because I'm finding it really, really tough to balance what to put in each little 2-3 minute clip. Yes, I don't cover this aspect, or I don't show them how the mechanics are to generate that and so forth and so on. What I eventually want to do is do a more in-depth video on the Facebook, the Duke Tim page, where, for instance, I do the J hook, and instead of the 2-minute look, here's the J hook in a nutshell. Go into an in-depth description for somebody who, yes, how in the hell do I generate force with that, and then they can go to that clip. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, you want to do the 10-minute, discuss this topic fully. People, kids nowadays have a 2-minute attention span. And so you've got to, give them the Reader's Digest condensed version. And, I find that really, really tough. That's a tough balance for me to get to.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Actually, it's interesting because, you brought up that you both kind of came about this, short TikTok, short video thing kind of at the same time. And for some reason, I was kind of talking with both of you at around the same time. So I just thought you guys were talking about this, and that's how it ended up. And so I'm surprised too. And you know what? It turned off. It's turning out great. I mean, I think it's turning out to be another wonderful modern resource for the SCA and recruiting. We see so much other stuff on TikTok, and these are ways for people to see what we're doing, get interested, and come out and really get involved. Tim, on the side of that is one of the hardest parts. There's a couple of pieces. I was going through Sunday training videos where literally we just couldn't have Sunday practice, and we put a group of people. I had a small COVID couple who happened to be my squire and her significant other, and we did just in the garage. We did videos, and a bunch of people would join us, and we ran through them. But to try to put those long classes together, put that practice almost like a martial arts practice isn't easy. But what I found was there's so much small content that you could put into it. It may be the same drill, but there are times I'd be like, okay, I want everybody to just close their eyes and do this drill now. And they could get more attached to what they're doing instead of the things around them. And it also helped release their mind from all of that other input coming in, and start learning to train the mind into things. So do you find when you're doing yours or training, really, you're doing fight practices all the time as well. So while you're doing fight practice, you're like, oh, I should bring this one up to a video, and you run over, write it down so you don't forget it.
Very much so. The way I'm trying to do it, and this is why I've been numbering all the ones as I put them out, I'm trying to do it in a foundational level so I can move on to bigger, more complicated topics. Look, today we're going to discuss controlling the center line. And you can see in videos 9.3 and 10.2 and 7.4, whichever ones need to reference, so that some of the broader the contexts, so the information is there and they have a reference to get back to it. And that's how I'm kind of planning on building this. But every time I think I'm ready for the next, okay, I can start doing the big topic items. Wait, I never covered half steps, or I need to express, I need to emphasize the importance of range control. There's so much foundational stuff that I'm trying to throw out there. I haven't gotten to the really interesting, complicated, ducal level stuff, if you will.
Yeah, and I think the big piece there is to get to that space, you have to lay down a foundation of understanding on the basics. So, I think you're right on track. I'm going to ask, just to go so I don't forget it, and because my mind's a sieve and shit falls out my ears. I want to talk and ask the question of how you're numbering, if there's an idea on how you're numbering things and that. But before we do that, there was a comment about the chair trick for getting you J hooks down. So explain that real quick.
That's actually one of my squires. No, the J hook is one of those shots. The better you throw it, the closer it gets to your leg as you're bringing it around for a wrap towards the posterior section. And I show them when you do it on a Pell, I just put a chair about 6 inches to the right side of the thigh, and
I love it.
It's pretty straightforward, but little tips like that will help you get it down. And I thought I had that in the J-hook video. Maybe I left it out.
Well, no, and you probably, there's probably in there. I was, if somebody brought it up, so I thought I'd have you explain it for us. And somebody else is here just saying, the videos help them, really focusing to the point on some things. And I think that's what small videos does, and that's what Bari talks about, is that they help you just think of one thing. One thing I found through COVID was that I was spending a lot of time with my squire. She has ADHD pretty hard, and as soon as I'm through 2 or 3 items, she just go, done, walk away. And I'd be like, wait, and I think she helped me be so much of a better trainer, because I think a lot of times we explain something, but we don't help them get to actually execution. In other words, here, throw this wrap now, or throw this shot. And then there's like, okay, the shot now, go ahead and use it in your fight. And there's layers in between. And she helped me understand what how important those layers were. And it really helped her, because I would show the shot, we would practice the shot. Then I would like, okay, now I'm going to walk forward or backwards, and you're going to throw the same shot on me while I'm walking backwards, right? And then we walked from corner to corner, and then I'd add freestyle walking in it, and then I'd even change pace of walking. And then as soon as I'm changing pace and freestyle walking, and she's just tracking and throwing the same one shot, I'm like, welcome to the fight, right? Because she went from throwing standing still all the way to moving, changing, making connection with your opponent, changing speeds, and throwing the same shot. And it really helped her, because she didn't have to think the shot so much. The movement stuff, once you know that, it's comfortable. You don't have to think about it as much. And now it's just one shot. I'm just thinking about this. I don't care about any others. I'm just thinking about the one shot. And I think in a way, that's what you guys are really focusing on, one item. You're not laying like, here's your 12 shots you should know, and I'm going to spend the next 2 hours telling you, right? So I really appreciate it. I know a lot of other people seem to too. Bari, did you? How's your feedback on that, by the way, on your videos?
My feedback, pretty positive. Let me just go through some stats here, if you don't mind.
Go for it. I love your stats, by the way. He's a stats guy, everyone. We went through stats the other day on what event was that?
Oh, Burka.
Burka. Oh boy, we got totally geeked up at Burka. So.
Yeah, there's a couple of Eastern Knights I see in the chat section too. I'll just do a quick shout out to Sir Sterling and Sir. Oh God, Jay. Sorry, I'm forgetting your name. Gawain, Sir Gawain. Sorry. I see them on there, and Gawain actually had a really good showing at Burka. Yeah, it's funny because now that I'm on the Shiv page, I'm starting to flood them with the stats, and I think they like it, but I also don't think they know they got into and duck in the order. But having said that, so I have Duke Timothy's channel up. Let me do a quick plug because we haven't said this yet. On Facebook, it's Duke Timothy's Fighter Workshops. Okay, that's his Facebook page that he's been talking about.
Hold on, I'm gonna pop that up for everybody to see. Hold on. Because I can do that now. Just give me 1 second here because I'm on the wrong page. There we go. And let's do it this way. No, let's do it this way. All right. So there's his page. Go ahead. You can keep talking. Duke Timothy Fighter Workshops.
Yeah, on my page, I have a YouTube channel. But honestly, I'm doing everything by playlist. And usually if you find at least one of the playlists, you can find my channel and find the rest of my playlists.
There you go.
All my playlists. There we go. Yes. All my playlists I have starts off with the word SCA talk or ska talk. I don't know how you want to say that. One of the playlists I don't have one is all of my parody rap videos. If anyone's seen Packing Up for Penzik or No Sleep Till Penzik, that's also me. I don't know if I should be bragging about that or if I should be embarrassed by it. But anyway, so I got some stats here. So Tim's second chance thrust video, 574 views in it's been about a month since he's had that up. And that's just on my channel. That doesn't talk about the people that go to his directly. The playlist itself, we've got like 116 views on here. And I think I've got you up to 23 videos. Some of the videos, I don't have your very latest videos. I don't have up here yet. And then if I go to my, I've got this over on this other screen here. SCA Talk Heavy Fighting. That was the original concept that I had here. And it's got 147 videos. They're not all mine. I don't know how many I have. I probably have maybe 20 or 30. A lot are mine, a lot are Timothy's, a lot of Duke Eichbrander. Who else is a big person? Some of Brannos's ladder drills, and footwork stuff. A lot of, in fact, I just found a bunch of Duke Dietrich videos. Pretty much any video I find that's under 3.5 minutes. I might go up to 5 minutes if it's a really good video. If I really think it's a good video, I'll put it in there. And yeah, I have them. I started breaking them up into different categories. Someone had given me that recommendation. So, for example, if you're looking for, I had this recently. Someone said, "Hey, do you have any good polearm videos for me to look at?" I was like, "Sure." It's on the playlist. You know, go through them. If you know. And the nice thing is, even with the short videos, if you like a particular teacher, like if you like, Duke Dietrich, he's got some longer videos that I don't put on there, but you can go to his channel and go look at all of his videos. That playlist, 147 videos. I'm up to 2,185 views to the playlist. And by the way, I got to say, for my background in this, the way I started this whole process way back in the day was I went to a local practice and we had some newer fighters, and I was trying to explain a concept to them. And this is right around the time, this is about 8 years ago, right around the time blogging kind of became a thing. I was like, you know what, I'm going to put this into a blog. And I remember I thought, hey, if these 3 people read this blog, it'll be worth it. And the next thing I know, it started catching on. Most of my blog videos, most of my blog pages, I usually get like 100 to 300 views. Every now and then I'll get like a Penzik unbelt battle that'll like, I'll get like 6,000 views or something crazy like that. It'll just get maybe more like 2,000 views. It'll just sort of get spread around, and people from different kingdoms will watch it and whatever. So that's in a nutshell. I hope I answered your question.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think really the key here is that, I mean, you're getting, I've seen numbers before, and it's been interesting because Tim and you are both getting really great numbers of people watching those things. So it's nice to see that the engagement is there. And there's, I started actually, I didn't put playlists together. I started putting some stuff together for other, I mostly go through some boxing stuff, but it's interesting because I've been going through boxing and workout stuff for a number of years now. And what I've noticed is even they're looking at 3 to 5 minute videos now a lot, which was a pretty big change and shift in the mentality of, before they're 20 minutes to 30 minute videos a lot of times. So
yeah, can I interject real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to talk about sort of the irony that here we are in this 90-minute, this 90-minute YouTube stream that we're doing right now, or StreamYard stream, talking about the value of short videos.
I know, isn't that great?
Yeah. So I also enjoy podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and one of the things they talk about in some of these podcasts, particularly early on when podcasting started becoming a thing, is it's not that any one way of communicating is the best way and we should always do it that way. But in the past, we were limited. We were limited by books and magazine articles, or if somebody, you could either do like a 10-minute talk on like a talk show, and that was only if you were somebody important, like, somebody who had Hollywood connections or connections with a radio station, or like a TV station or something like that. And then, or if you could do like an hour episode or stuff like that, but that would be like a one-shot deal. So what the long format, which is we're doing right now, is that you really get to dig into like the nuance and go like into different areas and like get really in-depth information, versus the short TikTok style videos is getting the concept across in a very short, efficient manner. And then if you want more, you can go look for more, or you can bring it to practice and have the local, whoever you think can teach you at practice, answer some deeper questions. So they sort of build different niches. And I also want to add, I know I went to one event last year. I've done this a couple of times actually, and I'll be driving up during this episode or during Coach's Corner, and I'll hook it up into my car and I'll listen to a Coach's Corner for an hour and a half as I'm driving to an event. So that's also something you can do with this format.
So Tim, you said there was a question out there. Which question was that you were looking at?
Well, no, there was a question from Sunwolf Baird at, I guess, 518, who was asking, is there a second channel? And I just wanted to.
Yeah, I thought that was a good idea, right?
And that's kind of what I was addressing with, at least for my stuff, on the Duke Tim page. I plan on embedding the if you will, the more in-depth version of each video in the first comment. I mean, that's, and I haven't figured out how to do that in TikTok, or else I would do it there too. But yeah, that's what I intend to do with the Duke Tim page. It is directly what they're asking for. I mean, it's Facebook has, at least for me, Facebook has been an incredible tool for the SCA. And the things that I'm trying to do locally. I mean, Adult Swim never would have happened without Facebook. I do a melee event in the fall, corn maze. That's a lot of fun. That again never would have happened without Facebook. And even though Facebook is now kind of passé for the 20-somethings, it still exists, and I intend to use that medium as best I can. But
yeah, so and that's a good point. And the point there being, it does, it did fade away, and TikTok will fade away too, and whatever's next is going to come next. And they're two different mediums. There's that piece where there's the communication side of that piece where Discord and things have started taking that place for younger people. But there's still a lot of SCA people on Facebook itself, and they still use it as a place to communicate. A lot of our events are still advertised on Facebook and done there. A lot of our communication is still done there because it's still a large platform that has been used for a while. What comes next, or what else comes up at the same time to share space between everybody, is just going to come. Is Facebook going to go away? It could. Websites went away, primarily, and I had one of them for years and years and years. But it's the trick is it's people like you who are constantly pushing into the next edge, the next way to train, the next way to look, that helps us stay, keep people together, grab our new folks, hopefully provide another way for people that may not have a chance to get training anymore, or they're in locations that don't have a lot of training to train, to get to maybe even build groups. But really, I mean, ultimately, what we're all trying to do is just become better at what we do, and that's fight and compete and things like that. And we're lucky. We can do that all over the world. We can see so many different styles in what we do, and we have people who throw out how to do this, all of the things they can do, spend an incredible amount of time for free, and give it away to everybody. And that's an amazing thing, really. I mean, there's you probably can find that in some other mature combat sports where they share techniques and things like that. But most of those, to tell you the truth, a lot of those people are still trying to make money, and they do it through ads and things like that. But here, one nice thing is that we share, and not only share how to fight and do those things, we share the mentality around it. We also share, the Coach's Corner page wasn't really made to be an educational page on, techniques and how to fight. It was brought up to hopefully help people understand the importance of how to be a better trainer and coach to other people coming into the society that are trying to learn what we're doing, or people that have been there to try to present training methods that work for them. So.
To Greg Rice, Duke Timothy does not have a YouTube channel. It's a Facebook channel, Duke Timothy's Fighter Workshops.
Yeah. Barry, you had them. Can you go ahead and drop those in? You know what? I'll drop them into the comments so that.
Yeah, actually, for whatever reason, I can't access the comments. We can talk about that later. But to everyone who's on here listening right now, if you happen to be listening at exactly the 8:33 timestamp, I see your comments and I appreciate it. Just for whatever reason, I can't say hello back. Oh, by the way, I wanted to add real quick. You're talking about Facebook. So I was a fighter from about 1994 to 2004, and then I took 10 years off. And in those 10 years, I got into triathloning, and then I got into playing music, and I was in a band. And about 10 years ago, every band I knew had a MySpace page.
Yes.
And that was a very big thing for bands, was creating a MySpace page, and they all adjusted. Now, right now, they're all on Facebook. Facebook is the big way to communicate with that. And like you said, at some point in the future, it'll probably be something else. But here we are now. As long as we don't get too old and stuck in our ways, I think we'll keep adjusting.
All right. So we dumped those some of the links into the comments so everybody could see them. We'll also post them when we post this video up. I'll also repost them to make sure that everybody has a chance to go see them. I want to just jump back and Tim, I want to talk a little bit about how you're numbering stuff so that I understand it a little better.
I mean, there really is, the main number is just sequential. But for instance, I think video 15, I think I did a couple of it. It's just related to the same topic. The main digit, for instance, 15 is just, if my memory serves me, that was the video on adding movement to your defense. Subsequent decimal point versions of that are just on the same topic. They're really, it's just I haven't sat, and I really should have sat and charted out, okay, how am I going to do this in a structured fashion? Because I really want to have it such that in the future I'll be able to, okay, now we've covered all the topics we have to in order to cover how to control the center of a fight. What do I mean by center line? So forth and so on. I should have charted all that out before I started. And now, like most plans, I'm just kind of winging it as I get the rest of the way. Every time I think that I'm ready to get into the more complicated topics, wait, there's another couple pieces of foundational stuff I have to throw out. But one thing that this actually does seem to be a good point to bring this up, a good point in the conversation. The person who's my training partner in most of the videos, local college professor, moved here from the mid realm a few years back, and he has done, Lord Ibn has done wonders with teaching me how to teach, and what to focus on, and his help has been invaluable, and he and I typically will go through the videos 3 or 4 times. Okay, look, this is the point we have to get across. We need to leave this one out, and combining it to one condensed version is much easier with his help. I think actually that's one of the handy things about the short video format that we haven't brought about. Most practices I've been to, there's always people who want to help you instruct. If I'm going over something with someone who specifically asked me a question, there's invariably 1 or 2 people who have helpful information they're trying to add to the conversation. And when you have your one squire who you said is ADHD, having 5 people tell them things at the same time, and often they're conflicting, is very, very confusing, to say the least, and not the least bit helpful. And I think the short video format totally eliminates that situation. And I think that's one of the reasons it's very, very helpful, and people are really enjoying the short format. You're not overwhelming them with not just material, with overwhelming them with the number of instructors.
So there's a question here, kind of a question. They asked if, it's assumed that you have to watch the prerequisite videos or not, to get to kind of jump to the advanced skills or stuff. Or they pretty much kind of stand up by themselves?
Yes, and that's what I'm hoping to do. But I figure, like I said, I'm trying to do it in a foundational way. And if there's a prerequisite that you really need to understand, I'll mention it when I'm doing the topic. And, okay, that part wasn't clear. I can refer back to video 7.2, where he says he covers that topic. So no, of course it's not, it's on the internet. Nothing is required. But I figure it'll give them a chance to clarify.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to go. I think, it's interesting because we just run live all the time, but you brought up a point. I think a lot of people think that, hey, you're just shooting that thing in 3 minutes. And with Jay, we'll jump back to he's just trying to understand kind of what was meant by the advanced channel, and maybe we'll cover that in a second. But I think people might think that you just grab a camera and shoot 3 minutes and then move on. And what it sounds like to me is like, hey, we talk about what we're going to shoot. We take some shots, we give it some effort, and then at some point we got a good 3 minutes that we're going to do. So, it's not just 3 minutes and it's that easy. It's there's work that involved in doing all of these. And I think it's important that people probably understand that.
No, that's exactly. He and I will, okay, this is what I want to cover today. And we'll spend half an hour or so going through it. Okay, this is what we need to convey. What are the critical parts we get across? What angle do we have? Typically, my wife is videotaping it. What angle best shows what we're trying to show? Which parts do we add? Which parts do we leave out? If it's a case, when we discussed Milanese, one of the things I wanted to show, for instance, was how great it works against teardrop type shields where they have no corners, and so the Molinet just sneaks right around it. What accessories we need to have present for the conversation, and that we'll go through it 3 or 4 times and say, okay, that's how we're going to do it, and that'll be about 2.5 minutes, and that'll work out perfectly. So I mean, it's not just okay, I'm going to throw a couple flat snaps and put it on tape. We try and coalesce it into a cohesive 2 to 3 minute block.
No, thank you for taking that time and doing that kind of thing, because you know what? I don't have that patience, unfortunately. Sometimes we'll talk a little bit about it. Sometimes I'll throw away some video, but a lot of times I just burn through stuff, and it's I came from that old school mentality, but there is definitely a new game in town on that level. So I thank you for kind of talking to us and helping people understand that, because I think other people who are trying to do the same thing would get a lot of benefit from learning from that idea.
Can I interject on that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one thing, and this is, Timmy and I both come from the engineering background. This is just an analysis of where we are. I think everything's going in a good direction. I do think that a lot of what I have on my channel and a lot of Timothy's channel, I would call almost like a smorgasbord of information. There's like a lot of good concepts out there. I feel like all of it is probably at least intermediate level. And just to answer the question, like it's definitely not advanced level. I mean, I think it's taken the intermediate in the direction of the advanced. But one of the things I was thinking of recently, and one of my new concepts I have for like another series for two-sword fighting, I've got a couple of people that are very, very, very new to two-sword. And kind of like you said earlier, Brannos, about like taking somebody and teaching them a basic shot, and then going through that one shot and then walking them around, the room to get them to start working on some very basic footwork. I don't think we have a lot of that currently. And so maybe I'm just marketing this to Tim to see if he'll add this to his stuff, or to whoever's listening, or maybe just bouncing some stuff to hear myself speak, so that I'll do it myself. But for example, one of the things that I'll do in a practice with a brand spanking new novice person is teach them a flat snap, teach them a basic, I think Tim called it the Atlantean A-frame. I'm still not up on my shield defenses, but I'll teach them like a basic shield defense. And then we'll go through a drill where basically I will only throw headshots at them to keep it simple, and they're only allowed to throw that flat snap at me. And then we'll sort of work with that. Or maybe I'll throw like, some headshots. And to me, that's like a basic, like lesson 1 and lesson 2. And I'm not really seeing a whole lot of that out there. Like that's where I think there's an opportunity to be able to take, like, what if you had a brand spanking new person, and how do you get them from going to like, okay, here you are, you're day 1 of your karate class, and then how do we work them through like a year of karate? How would we do that? So just some thoughts there. But having said that, when I have new people come in, one of the things I've been doing is I've been throwing the playlist at them, because when you're at home, you're excited. Here's just some ideas. You're probably not going to come in the next practice and have the Molinet mastered. In fact, you probably shouldn't even work on it, but at least you know that it exists. It's kind of like when we were kids reading the karate magazines, and we'd see like some new karate technique, and it got you excited about it, but then you would go to karate class and you would learn your basic Mai Gary straight punch. So anyway, just some thoughts there. You're on mute. Brannos.
It's actually interesting, because something that I was doing on my Sundays is a lot of times when you first bring up something to somebody, it tends to be a little shocking to their brain. And then they spend most of the time thinking about that thing and not actually watching what you're doing sometimes. So at the end of my classes, a lot of times I'm like, okay, next week, I'm going to teach you how to breathe. And then, everybody goes home and they're like, what the hell does he mean? And then they have a week to settle down. And then they come to class and they're like, okay, what are we learning today on breathing? And they're ready to learn that. And I think that's what you just said. People used to be like, all right, and then here's the shocker. And then we leave you off. And then, next time they come in, they're ready to learn it, because, it's like sometimes if you present something that's way outside of what people are used to, it takes a little time to settle down after hearing it, or even to believe what you said. It's like sometimes you throw, it's like, well, we only really throw this many blows, or this is how to bring tension up in somebody's body, and they're like, what do you mean? And then so they spend time, and then next week they're like, all right, I think I understand tension. How do you do it? And and so instead of like, what the hell do you mean? Now they're like, oh, I thought about it all week. Tell me how you're doing it. And they're more inquisitive about really wanting to learn that thing. So I used to do that a lot, just so I knew that when the next time they came in, they would actually be ready to learn that next thing. We cover a little bit of the older stuff, and then we move forward. So, yeah, I think that goes a long way to help people. And these are all just training methods, right? And I think that's the good part about it.
Yeah. One more thought here. So I got back into fighting in 2014. Before that, I was doing triathloning for a while, and I was actually pretty active on triathlon board. I'll give you the quick backstory here is that triathletes don't generally have a running background. They usually come from other sports, or they come from swimming and cycling. And if you're a runner, you go do the local 5Ks, you do half marathons and marathons. You usually don't get the triathlon. So I was a distance runner in college. So I had this experience. I found myself quickly becoming sort of a coach. And I started doing sort of a version of my blog back then on this forum. And one of the things I noticed early on as I went through writing these training, posts, is that all of my stuff was targeted toward intermediates. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing. And it took me a while to figure out how to cover like the beginner stuff. And I think all of us, particularly you guys, God, you guys are old as dirt. So you must have been fighting in the 80s, the 1880s. I started in the 1990s, but it's like, when you have so much experience, it's hard to remember, what it's like for a new person. Now, I don't doubt that. I think all of us are probably really good with it when we see that new person, but to basically put out some of these concepts into videos, for the world to consume. So again, that's just a thought. That's just something that I think maybe I haven't seen a whole lot, out there, aside from like some of your videos show like the basic flat snap. You can see flat snap videos. Duke Sean's got some videos. Actually, even then, some of the stuff I've been working on is like Duke Sean's videos, which are fantastic. I love them, but it's almost like, I think there's some room to show like, okay, this is how you go from like a very uncoordinated person with no athletic background and get them the ideas of these flat snaps. If you're teaching piano lessons, you teach them how to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. You don't teach them how to play the perfect scale, do exactly what I do and do it like this. So again, just some ideas going out there.
So I'm gonna throw out a couple of. We have some really good conversation online. At some point go back and look, because everybody's chatting up, probably putting on a better show online than even what we're talking about in some cases. But
yes, my knight's harassing me now.
Oh, is that who that is? I saw that, William, right?
Yeah, Sir Bill.
Yeah. So they were talking about the this actually isn't the one. Where did he posted another one that so there's a lot about what you brought up about how to take somebody from the beginning of, hey, you just got into armor, to how to authorize in a bunch of small steps. And I think, Barry, this is what you were just talking about, and I think that would actually be beneficial, and that actually might be something that you could pull together from multiple people and put in a playlist, actually. That might be a way to get to that spot. And I think, if Duke Timmy, if you're looking for a short series of stuff, start a 100, this is the beginning to, you probably could put a number of videos that you've already done together in a playlist to create that itself as well. And because you really, the stuff, Tim, you're covering is fundamental. It's the hard part sometimes is, and I think this is where the Facebook page helps you, is that you can post up that video and then people ask you questions, right? And
yeah, I'm surprised by how few questions I actually get. But yeah, I try and respond to them when I get them. Sometimes they're on PM, sometimes they're in the comments itself. But I'm genuinely surprised with how few comments I get. What's also surprising to me is how much of the stuff that I consider it, just bare basics, that, how can somebody who fought for years and not understand these concepts? I have people, wow, I'd never seen that, or, I've never been exposed to that, or that's really, how could I have been fighting for 10 years and not know that? I mean, it shows to me that even in areas that are, I'd expect that in a really, really isolated area where they haven't got a more experienced instructor, within a commutable distance. But even, I'll go to practices where they have experienced fighters, and I've never seen this. How can I not know this? And it just boggles my mind. I think that we, the more senior fighters, a lot of us have dropped the ball. And to answer Jay Hoffman's question, a little bit of both, mainly the concept. I mean, the vocabulary, different people have different, I call it a wrist leader. I've heard it the same thing called thumb leaders, or, false edge, but the concepts are the main thing that I'm wondering about. I grew up in an area in the SCA. When I first started, I was in Northern Atlantia, and the chivalry in the area really treated all of us squires as almost a communal pool. So, when you did something stupid, or you were trying to learn a concept, somebody always pulled you aside and showed you what was going on. But I see a large lack of instruction all over the place, and I'm trying to address it as best I can from my approach.
No, I think you are. I mean, I think that's a big piece. I think that's. I think you're at a more, a more training geared fight practice. I think we find a lot of places really fight practice is everybody, the 4 or 5 people there, maybe the 3 people there get in armor. They fight each other for 10, 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and then they get out of armor and they're done. Because at that point they fought all each other. They've gotten a couple of rounds in, and they haven't really had anybody to help them understand how training actually works.
Hey, I interject to put this in context. I started fighting in 1993, and I learned how to throw a rap by Sir Angus Halfhand from Atlantia. I know at least Timothy knows him very well. He taught me how to throw a rap in 2019. I did not know how to throw a rap for how many decades was that? No one had ever taught me. People have tried to teach me, but almost always when they teach, they're just like, do what I'm doing. And I could kind of throw it, but I had a whole lot of wrist pain and elbow pain and stuff like that. And what Angus basically taught me, and actually what he did was he taught a whole bunch of the Celts down there in Atlantia. We basically said, boy, these guys don't know what they're doing. And I was like, well, they're pretty good with spear because that's what I've been teaching them, but I don't know how to throw a rap. So none of them know how to throw a rap either. And he basically taught me the Count Steiner method, which I believe is also the Duke Bellatrix method. But yeah, just aim at a target to the right of your opponent and let it turn over. And so even something as basic that like every knight would take for granted that it's just something you throw. I mean, now I can wiggle my ankle and a rap pops out. But 2019, I couldn't throw one for crap.
I like this comment because it is 100% the truth. It's that, do what I'm doing. Totally classic, let me tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
That was totally it made me laugh. So that was good.
Yeah. By the way, Jay has a lot of really cool comments in here.
Oh, he does. Jay's
yeah.
had a lot of cool comments.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to catch up to him in after a bit here. Jay, ping me offline. I'd love to talk a little bit. And I agree that a lot of, Jay also posts this as a comment, and I think he hits it on the head here too. Is we sometimes we end up at practices that have a lot of different styles of the practice, not only just communication issues, but also style issues. Everybody has their own style, but sometimes, when you go to a martial arts class, you learn the fundamental style first, and then what you do well creates your own style. And I think that makes communication easier. Like our practice, we have fundamentally a very strong foundation. So most of the stuff comes out of that. But me and Rongvalder say words differently, and we interact. Even, when you're coaching somebody, it's not just words that help that person, but it's an understanding emotionally how they take those words in. And Rongvalder presents a much different place than how I present it. And there are times I'm like, I know they're not getting this from me. I'm like, here, Rongvalder explained this to him, and he'll be like, oh, well, why didn't you just say that? And I'm like, I've been saying that to you for a half hour now, but it's okay. I'm good, But I think that is 100% the truth. We say things different ways, and it makes it hard for students too. Sometimes you have to go back and say, we're saying the same thing. You can see it physically here. We're saying the same thing, just in different ways. So just be aware that how you say things may be seen different to other people. And that's a good training method to help people not become a better fighter, but actually become a better trainer, so that they can understand that saying things in a different way oftentimes may be important for the person you're actually talking to. Real quick note, because I'm going to jump back to this when I talked a little bit about tension here. If you're still online, again, if you want to PM me privately, I'll send you some video. I do a lot of the tension I'm talking about is not only the pressure you put on somebody, because pressure causes tension, but there's a lot of different ways to cause tension. I use a lot of Eastern European boxing style tension, where there's a lot of pull push in very close, in edges of range. And the idea is to essentially bring somebody's tension up in their body and hold them in that place as long as you can. And you'll burn people out in that space. It's not the Mexican style tension where you're just on them, and it's just a brutal beating. If you ever watch Lomachenko or Triple G or any of the really the guys out of Eastern Europe, there's a lot of running right in that gray space, and they're never letting you off of that space. And when you breathe, they come into your space, which holds your tension in your body, which makes it harder for you to breathe. And you can literally break people down. I've seen Rongvalder make people puke by doing this, just because the stomach gets so tight after a while. You get cramps and you puke. It's just the way it works. So happy to talk to you more about it if you want.
Interesting.
So, all right. So, I mean, this is a lot of these comments are really, really cool. I want to just run back. Tim, you've been running Adult Swim for a long time now, and I'm gonna let you tell us how many years. But I'd just like to know what's kind of going on this year.
Still looking forward to Adult Swim, though it's not. I don't expect it to be as big as past years, because it's it's not officially an SCA event. Once again, we've rented out the shoe factory 10 minutes from my house. We've arranged mundane liability insurance, since we won't have the SCA's coverage. But I'm expecting 200, 250 people again, between heavy rattan combat and rapier combat. It's frustrating that it had to be a non-SCA event this year, but next year we'll be back to our usual, God willing, Adult Swim format. But for those of you who've never been there, a little background. I'm in a very, very, what was originally a very isolated area of Ethelmark. The nearest shiv to me was about 2.5 hours. away. And, I would drive out to the Nutley practice in New Jersey once every 6 or 8 weeks and drag 1 or 2 squires with me, just so they could get some instruction. And at one point I spoke with Duke, well, now His Highness Brennan of the East, and I'm like, look, I'm out here all the time. Ideally, could I get half a dozen of the deep end fighters from Nutley to come out here if I, find a site to do a fight practice for a weekend? And it really snowballed from there. His Highness was very, very gracious and got a gang together and said, hey, we'll make this happen. And as it was, I happened to go on a business trip to Dallas, and I met Duke Sven and Duke Brendan,
Brendan, yeah.
Who crushed me last time I fought him, by the way, both of them actually. But I told them about this fight practice that we were putting together, and it really snowballed. One of our locals, Baron Ichi, had an in with, he and Duke Sean go way back. And so Sean said he'd come out. And when Sean said he'd come out, Duke Brian from the East came down, and he got
Aragon.
Yes. And he got, I guess, Nigel to come down, and it snowballed. And we turned around and had the first year, I think we were at almost 50 royal peers and over 100 members of the chivalry, and it's gotten larger every year since. Right before COVID, we had, by my best estimate, we had 300 heavies in armor and almost 150 rapier combatants in armor. Like I said, this year I'm expecting to be a little bit smaller, but it's still one hell of a fight practice. What we've the one thing that to me is really notable about it is everybody checks their egos at the door. No matter who you are, there's always someone there who can take your lunch money. And I never once saw nor heard reported an instance of where somebody was too important to fight somebody else.
I agree.
All of the experienced fighters made time to work with anyone who needed to work with them. I see Jay Hoffman. I'll shoot you an invite on Facebook. But it ended up, I wanted instruction from my local guys who needed more of a chance, and it ended up being instruction for literally hundreds of people. It's probably the best fighting event that isn't, from an instructional point of view. From an instructional point of view, I think it's the best fighting event. I mean, it's not a large melee like, Penzik or where they're calling it War of the Phoenix now, I think is what they're calling Instructional. And it's certainly not as prestigious as Candlemas or Burka or anything like that. But if you want to go and learn, that's the event to do it at.
Yeah, I mean, I think there, and I think the important part when we talk learning there is, this is learning top down. And so a brand new person can fundamentally show up and find people that are more than willing to want to help him or them and try to kind of get them moving forward in their career. But even more so, the top guys go there to learn. I mean, literally, these are the events you go to find the other people who are going to beat you. And when you're at a level, learning comes through not by winning, but by losing and by being pushed. And these are the events that you go. So the amazing thing about this one is we have people on, on this level and people on this level, all there to learn. That's why they go there.
Can I tell you what my goal is for the Rattan Symposium? So my singles, I've been doing 2-sword, and for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, I've actually gotten pretty good at it. I'm not too bad. Not too bad. Look forward to fighting Tim. We'll see if he pulls out a buckler on me, if he's going to bring out a shield. that'll be a good measure. But actually, yeah, one of the things I plan on doing is I want to find all the two sorters in there and fight them with sword and shield, see what they do to me, and then ask them what it is that they're doing so that I can learn. Because two sword has, I think, particularly right now, a lot of variability in how different people do it. And it's something I really want to learn, not so much to change what I do, but so that when I have a two-sworder come in and wants to learn how to fight two-sword, I could be like, well, like, what style do you naturally gravitate toward? And one of the things I always hated as a new fighter is when someone said, oh, you have to do it this way because this is the way to do it because this is how my knight taught me and this is the way. And I would like to just know. But like I said, the Rattan Symposium is the perfect place to do that. By the way, my computer crashed, so I'm assuming we're still talking about the Rattan Symposium.
Yes, we are. You got back fast. So.
Sorry.
I'd like to thank William out there for helping online and making sure everybody knows where the event is and things like that, and posting up the event page. So Tim, yeah, I think tell us how many years has this been for?
I think this will be the 6th Adult Swim.
Okay.
It was pretty much the last event before COVID shut everything down. And we've had to skip the last 2 years, obviously, for COVID. There's one other thing that I think is critical that Adult Swim gives us the opportunity for. I oftentimes comment to people as they travel around at different practices, they have to avoid inbreeding, which is what I refer to. You know, we have the same 6 people at fighter practice, and I'm the top dog at fighter practice. You know, my local practice, well, yeah, but maybe you guys have seen each other so often, you've got to expose yourself to other things. And Adult Swim, at the last Adult Swim, and again, it's not going to be quite as big this year. By my count, we had 18 kingdoms present. We had, including Drakenwald, and we had, I believe the final tally was 40 plus states and 5 Canadian provinces represented at the fight practice. So, you know, it really is a chance to meet people outside of your own little fighter practice and see techniques that other people are doing in different parts of the country.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that everybody really how far people come just to learn, right? I mean, that's to get that push, and I think that shows the dedication to the sport we have, really. So,
yeah, the first one was 2016, which I confirmed by going to bogpages.com, SCA photographs.
Oh yeah.
Master Ursus is a photo page. So if anyone on here has never been there, it's a fantastic page. It's got, I don't know if he's got 1 million photos. It's a lot of photos, but yeah, I think he's been to every Adult Swim. And yeah, it goes back to 2016.
So while you're here and talking, I got a question for you. I'm gonna bring up your page, and just kind of show that you have another page that you talk a lot about melee, and I just want to bring it up real quick, and then we'll pop back. But before I forget it, I thought we'd cover it here. Hold on, let me pop over there. I think I have it up. There it is, right there. So tell us a little bit about this page.
This is, what's it called? thetacticalfighter.com. It's the tacticalfighter/blogspot.com. You can actually find it on Facebook. If you go to the Tactical Fighter on Facebook, you should be able to find it. I started that. Oh my God, I can't remember now. I've got something like 120 posts, I think. And like I said, that started off with just some basic like local. Hey, let's do this. So we don't need to read through this, but here's an example of a local practice we had. I got some screenshots in there, and this was a melee. And one of the things I noticed, is the other one not loading up? One of the things I noticed in the melee was that we were, I don't know why it's not loading up in there. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's not loading up.
But anyway, one of the things we noticed in the melee was that there were some people that were breaking off into one-on-ones. There we go. Some people were breaking off into one-on-ones, and so I sort of show the beginning position. And then the next one, I kind of talk about how in a melee, you don't really want to fight anybody unless you have some sort of actual, tactical advantage. So there I got some some diagrams with tactical advantages. If you can scroll up just a bit, scroll up, 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 up.
Working on it.
There we go. Yeah, so right there. So I talk about, back down one.
Okay.
That one right there. So the top picture is you have a numbers advantage. There's a 2-on-1. Then I have a range advantage, meaning you've got a spear and they don't, so you take some shots at them. Then I have a second range advantage on the bottom, which is, well, you've got a sword and shield. You've run past their points, and now you're going to fight them. On the left there, I've got a big skill advantage, which here I show a picture of a big knight versus a little peasant, meaning, but, if Duke Timothy runs into a new fighter, he's not going to go, oh, this is a one-on-one situation, and the person's totally going to bite on my rising snap, but I'm not going to engage because this is not an advantage. Clearly has an advantage. And by the way, the picture we have of Duke Timothy, he shows up on his wall every now and then. When it was at a 3-on-14, I think. We were actually worried that he was going to run through us because we had nothing but spears. But
I think it's still my Facebook background. I think.
Yeah, I don't think it is currently, but sometimes use it as the background. It was just a fun little screenshot we had of us teasing Duke Timothy during a hold. But yeah, so I just kind of like talk about different things that happen, usually in the local practices, talk about different concepts. And like I said, sometimes it's helped me a lot because it makes me sort of think about what we do and we analyze. But for everyone that gets a chance to read out there, I mean, it's just kind of like everything else. It's a smorgasbord of just, here's a concept, read it. Hopefully, if you do this over the course of 5 or 10 years, you'll get better at melee fighting.
Well, I'm gonna totally steal that for my Thursday nights with some of my guys, so and kind of walk them through some of that stuff because I think it's really good stuff. I really enjoyed reading through some of them, and thanks for keeping posting those up.
Well, thank you. Well, and the one thing I ask of anyone out there, if you've ever watched anything I put out or read anything and killed me using it, please just at least let me know. So that I get credit for killing myself. And I last time I talked to Brannos, and I'll make the story very short. It was an Ethelmark guy, now Sir Bors. The first time I met him, he had killed me with a spear, and then killed a couple more guys in our line. And I was like, wow, that guy was good. This is before he got knighted. And I was going to look him up and tell him what a great job he did. And he came up to me. He said, "Are you Barry of Anglesey?" He's like, "I've watched all your spear videos." And then I got harassed by Arundor for teaching.
Yeah, I always love that one. I get that quite a bit. It's fun. It's nice to hear. I mean, people are great. I do love when they come up, and it's nice to know that something helped them. And Tim, I know that has to be nice for you. You've been doing this. You've been traveling and doing stuff for years and years. And I just want to call out if people are listening. Timothy has done a lot of traveling, a lot of training. Don't miss him. And Tim, I'm sure you wouldn't mind people reaching out to you and talking to you about some of that stuff. Is that okay?
Of course. No, I started doing this. I authorized 2 weeks after my 16th birthday. And the first several years I was in the SCA, every practice, every event I went to was somebody else graciously gave me a car ride there. And so I'm still just trying to pay it back. And that's one of my favorite things about this organization is, that is such a common thread with everybody. Everybody's trying to do their part. Yes, there are exceptions, but the overwhelming majority of the people in this organization are gracious, generous, kind, and helpful, and they live by the ideals that we all should. And it's as I said, I authorized 2 weeks after my 16th birthday. In another couple of weeks, I'll turn 56. So it's been a good run.
That's awesome. Hey, just so I'm going to bring it up. If it seems like you have to be invited to that group for the Rattan Symposium. Do you mind if people private message you if they would like to go?
More than happy to do that. Yeah, we had to make it private so I did not want to inadvertently step on the SCA's social media policy because we were forced to do it as a mundane event rather than an SCA event. Otherwise, it would have been public. All the other adult swim invites have been public. Like I said, this year is just because of the COVID repercussions. This is just kind of a special case, but next year should be back to normal.
Yep. No, that's there are a lot of special cases we're still dealing with, and we'll get through them. It will keep growing. We'll especially with the stuff you guys are producing, and I think that just that outreach is gonna help us keep growing no matter what. But I think this has to keep going on because I think there's just way too many people that want to be part of it. So thank you for running those. Yep. Just so I want to cover, let's just make sure we got about 15 or just about 15 minutes left. Personally, I love these episodes, and it was really great talking to both of you. You guys are really, I get a little excited because I really love people giving to other people and new training ideas and things like that. I'm a little bit a geek on the wanting to the others to learn and do things. So this has been a great conversation. Tim, is there anything else you'd like to kind of cover in the last 15 minutes?
Like I said, I'm still coming back to how do we get young people into our organization, and that's, like I said, that was my incentive for doing the TikTok channel, because my 20-something daughter said this is how we're going to reach young people. And in addition to my instructional video, once I have enough content that actually matters, I'm going to start putting other SCA content up on that same TikTok feed, hoping to draw people in. And I am always open for how we can draw young people in. I mean, we're getting older and grayer as an organization, not just me. And I don't want 20 years from now, us to be the, DAR, where we're all sitting around drinking tea, talking about the good old days when we were on the battlefield. And I think bringing in young people is an imperative to keep that from happening. And no matter what outreach I've seen tried, we as an organization are failing badly at doing that. And this TikTok is my attempt at, I hate to use buzz phrases, but, thinking globally, acting locally, trying to do my part to bring people in. I mean, we have a few crossovers from DAG currently, and they seem to really, really be happy with it. But up until recently, and the DAG here, at least in our region of the country, their take on the SCA is you have these 50-something-year-old old men who come here and hit on our young girls. And, we're trying to break that.
Foam fighting organization, for those who don't know.
Yeah, Dagger here is their thing is all based in the Tolkien world. They have a big event on the same site we have Penzic. They have their Ragnarok every year. And like I said, their take on SCA nights those are the fat old guy who come here and, try and scam our young girls. And our crossovers are finally getting the word out that no, they're decent people in the SCA. These are good people, and we're starting to get a steady stream in the region of the country, and I'm hoping that takes other places.
So just to give you a feel, some people from DAG, we were lucky enough as a group to get a ton of them. And I tell you, there are a lot of Kings right now that have come out of foam, especially out west.
And Sven got his start in Amp Guard.
Yeah, I mean, look at Amp Guard. Sir Ingolf from here is Belgar. Val Harick is Dagger Hair. We pulled
I did not know that.
Yeah, we pulled almost Sir Rucker is Dagger Hair. Our Count Rucker is Dagger Hair. Who?
Fox came from
Belgar. And so we're lucky. We have a lot, and actually we've done a couple episodes on the foam side. But we started, Val Harick came to our group, and lots of Dagger Hair people. We were very close to the group. They went to Pensick a lot, and lots of our group is built out of the foam Dagger Hair group that was in Cleveland. So we've been lucky. We pulled a lot of foam. I think the biggest piece that's come out of all these episodes is you just have to treat them. Swords are swords. People, treat them, as much as everybody wants to. We came out of a time when we were the tough guys. Well, now I think one thing that helped us a lot is now we got people fighting full contact steel. And guess what? We're maybe not the tough guys anymore. And maybe we just do our own thing. And you know what? That's fine. They do their thing. The steel guys do their thing. Everybody can do their thing and enjoy it. And we can invite others to come enjoy our thing and not make them feel bad about it. So just to give you a feel, I fully support. Bring them in, help them have fun, because those folks are the people who really bring a ton of others in with them. When they enjoy it, others come in and enjoy it, and they just make our enjoyment that much more. So, make sure, and that doesn't only go for those groups. It goes for anyone. I mean, everyone is important. Try not to, this goes back to try not to push people away because we can't afford it. Barry, you got anything to say?
Yeah, I've always got something to say. Yeah, no, certainly. I certainly agree with you guys on bringing new people. Some things we haven't covered so far. I mentioned this in our chat earlier. I don't know how well anybody here knows Count Avery out of Drachenwald, but I always enjoyed his channel on YouTube. So it's Avery Alex, does the sort of John Madden style, let's break down a fight and rewind it and do all that stuff. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. In fact,
he did one of mine early off in all of his stuff. So.
You and Logan at Candlemass.
Yes.
I remember watching that one. And in fact, on that one, that's where I was able to confirm or at least legitimize my cantilever technique, which is to pop the back leg or pop your back leg backwards to give yourself a little bit more reach. I do that with a spear.
So what that ends up is balance, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of balance, a little bit so you can reach forward, but that's neither here nor there. But it's just showing the value of like one of those videos. So I like this channel. So again, it's on YouTube. It's Avery Alex. He does this like sort of John Madden style breaking down fights. Again, I would call that more of like intermediate to advanced, seeing what like I think almost all of the fighters in there are like some pretty top level dudes. But I will say that stuff like that, like both of your videos that you put out there, and Duke Sean and Duke Dietrich and a whole lot of other people, I watched so much of that stuff over the pandemic, which to any I'm unbound out there that's listening, might sound like a lot of work. It wasn't. I mean, it was like a 10-minute video here, a 5-minute video there. It's just at my leisure. And it really transformed my fighting. I mean, before the pandemic, I was not a singles fighter at all, like by any stretch of imagination. And it was one of the things I was told that, like, if I wanted to join the order, that I should probably get a little bit better at it. So I focus on it. So I do think that these video channels, again, I appreciate any thanks to my stuff, but yeah, it's a team game. It's a group effort. And I've certainly learned from a lot of it. So that's what I got.
No problem. Tim, I think you hit a chord on everyone, and we've done a couple episodes on this, and I think you hit that chord, and that chord was, we got to do better at recruiting. I mean, it's, we have everything from its mentorship, or, we have somebody talking about being a chatelaine and recruiting, to other nonprofits, and and not wanting to recruit in campuses anymore is a shame, because yes, a lot of times those kids move away, but doesn't mean that they stop the SCA, right? They may move somewhere else and participate in, as you're just building the SCA. And I think it's important. And you do put a lot of work into it and then feel like you lose something, but make sure you understand you're not actually really losing anything. You're helping somebody enjoy their life in a time that they're in a great learning process, and you're showing them something that hopefully they'll come back to even at some point, because they remember it for being the fun place they spent their time in college with. And that's the way to keep people around for the long run. When they come back, that usually means they're going to stay around because they remember it as a great place. We see that a lot in kids that are born in the SCA. They leave in their teens and come back in their mid to late 20s, and then they bring their family up here. So it's really interesting. I like that you hit that chord, Tim, on everybody. There's lots of comments out here about it. Obviously, I think they probably want to talk about it again, and maybe we'll look at possibly bring up another episode about it, because I think it's important. I think recruiting into what we do and into the society is super important. So thanks for bringing that up.
Can I offer a tip on that one?
Yeah.
This is I know Timothy's familiar with this. I don't know how familiar you are, Brannos, but my household, mercenary household, Anglesey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we always we did a pretty good job with retaining people. And I remember a while ago, I think Count Ruslan out of the East went out to Australia and came back with he wrote something on Facebook. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but talked about how to help retain young people. And one of the things he talked about that I really liked was this idea of when young people come into our game, and let's be honest, I mean, for this, we're really talking about young fighters, although we like anyone to join the game. But I think we are really talking about like getting young people into armor and getting out there and doing heavy fighting. But the big thing with people in their early 20s is they like a lot of autonomy. They like to be able to go out there. I can't tell you how many times we've seen somebody that's like, they want to fight with sword and mace, and they want to fight with dueling axes, and they want to try all sorts of stuff that it's just, for old guys like us, we're just like, why do you want to do this? Because this is not going to help you win the next tournament. It's not going to help you win crown. But think about the first time you played Dungeons and Dragons, and this is kind of a little bit of where their mindset is they're taking that sort of Dungeons and Dragons enthusiasm, or the enthusiasm of watching Lord of the Rings or Vox Machina or whatever the big thing is right now, and allowing them to just explore at their own pace and with what enthusiasm they have, and then slowly try to guide them in a direction. If somebody's like, wow, I'd really like to win some more fights, then that might be the time to say, well, maybe you should think about like a nice, well-weighted sword, and we could show you some techniques rather than running around with that axe or whatever it is. But yeah, that was one of the big things that Ruslan came back with from learning in Australia, where at least at that time they had a lot of good retention of young people. It's just allowing them to sort of form their own groups of friends and going out there rather than splitting them up and saying, no, you need to be part of this division for Penzic, and you need to be part of this division. And I know for Anglesey back in the 90s or maybe even the 80s in Atlanta, that was a big, butting of heads at the time, which was like Atlanta was like, if you're going to be fighting in our kingdom, this is the way things are done. And we don't want to do it that way.
Yeah, and I think that's why you see lots of households of the same age of people come together, and that's what keeps them in the SCA, keeps them having fun, and they move on, they become Pelicans and everything else. It's good for groups. Sometimes it feels adversarial, that it's us against them. It's not. We're all still doing the same thing. It's us for us, and I think that's important to bring on. And and I think you nailed it with let them do the things they want to do. Sometimes they just want to fight, right? And they don't want to learn all day. And sometimes you have to step back and go, just go have fun. There's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes you have to let them use those weapon styles. You can ask all those kings who one with a sword and a Madu, right? I mean, everybody poo-pooed those for how long, and now there's a bunch of people in the society trying to catch back up to them. So. It's those kinds of things. They bring a different thing. They bring more challenge to us. We should be thanking them for that. So, all right. Well, you know what? I think we're going to kind of wrap her up. And I want to say thank you to these two gentlemen because I know I had a lot of fun. Tim, I can't wait to get you back on. I actually just can't wait to see you again. It's
Looking forward to it.
Way too long, right?
Agree 100%.
So, and Bari, we get to see each other hopefully a lot more in the future. I believe there's a Melee episode coming up pretty soon. I think it was actually supposed to be next week. I don't know if that's gonna pan out because there's a bunch of people traveling to Adult Swim / Rattan Symposium. And so we might have to change that episode because Tim ruined it for us.
Sorry.
No, you're not.
No. And we'll likely have a post travel here at the house after Adult Swim.
And if anybody hasn't seen it in his videos, go look. It's gorgeous, and I hate him. But we'll move on from that and say first, I'd like to make sure thank everybody online who had all these wonderful comments. And thank you too for coming on last minute and doing a great episode. Our numbers were wonderful. Lots of great comments, and we'll post it up on Coach's Corner. If you have questions, post them there. We'll try to answer as many as we can. We have a lot of great people participating in that site and having good answers there. And I love to watch them, to tell you the truth. I learned so much. And then this will be out on YouTube for people to watch. Remember, you can always just pull up parts of it. You can always listen to it like Barry does when he's, just as a background. And hopefully you learn something. Hopefully you enjoy it. And hopefully you point other people to it. So look forward to having you both back at some point. Well, at least Tim back. Barry, you're going to be back sooner than you want to be. So, and thanks for the great episode. Everybody, have a wonderful weekend. Be safe, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot.